Joe Cuhaj Shorts. Take one.
Friends, think back. Think back in time to when you were a kid. For some of you, that's not too long ago. For the rest of us, it was like light years ago. It's long ago. But think back to when you were a kid. And how many times were you asked that age-old question, what do you want to be when you grow up? How many times were you asked that when you were a kid? Oh boy, it was like a daily thing when you were real young, like we had a clue. We're just little kids. Who knows? Yeah, and we all had that one day in elementary school. You probably remember this too, right? It was probably a second grade or so when your teacher would gather all the kids around and they would sit around in a circle, cross-legged on the floor, and she would ask each one of us that question. What do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, heck, we're probably only second graders. What do we know? We don't even know what the options are. Were there options? What can you be? And finally, one kid blurted out, I want to be an engineer like my dad. And all of us other kids were sitting around going, wow, an engineer, wow, hey, that sounds good. And then we all start acting like lemmings because we have no idea what the answer to this question is, right? So we all start parroting everything he said. Yeah, I want to be an engineer. Yeah, I want to be an engineer. We thought he meant a train engineer, riding the rails and pulling freight cars and things. But he was talking about his dad being a mechanical engineer. And at the time I thought, cramity, what was that? He made that up. Yeah, who knew? But anyway, I remember that day clearly when they asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you probably remember that too. And my question to you is, how did that work out for you? Did you make that fantastic prognostication? Did you look into the future and hit the nail on the head? You knew exactly from the day you were born what you wanted to be when you grew up? Were you that kind of person? Well, if that wasn't you, don't feel bad. You aren't alone, because nobody gets it right when they're asked that question. None of the kids I knew ever had a clue about a career at that young age. But we all did try our hands at entrepreneurship at one time or another when we were small, right? You probably did it too. And we all tried to make some kind of money on our own as kids. Of course, the easiest way to make some money was to go couch surfing. Your old man would take a nap on a Sunday afternoon, and when he got up and left the room, he'd go in between the cushions looking for all the change that fell out of his pocket. That's the quickest way to make some money, right? But the next easiest way was to grab your radio flyer wagon and walk around town. You go down the back alleys behind stores and look for old pop bottles. And you could turn those in and get you some quick, cold, hard cash. And we did that a lot. We collected a lot of bottles as kids. And then there were some ads in the comic books of the day that made it sound like, as a kid, you could become rich instantly. You could become richy rich. That's right. And you would, like I say, you would find these ads in most comic books of the day. And there was this one ad that invited boys, and that's what it said, boys only. It was very gender specific, this ad. And they invited you to sell subscriptions to a national newspaper called Grit. Did you ever see those ads? Week after week, the ad would say, look, fellows, you can win your choice of some fantastic prizes free, plus as much as $1 to $6 every week. Wow, that's some really, really real hard cash right there, right? And the ad continued. And again, it was for boys only, right? This is what the ad said. It said, if you are a boy 12 years or older, you can be happy, prosperous by selling grit. You're selling dirt? I didn't understand what it was. You're selling grit. Well, it turns out it was a newspaper that sold for 20 cents a copy, and supposedly you would keep 7 cents out of every copy sold. Did you ever know anybody who sold grit? Did you? I never did. Did you ever know anybody who read grit? I didn't either. And better yet, did you ever see a copy of grit? I didn't either. We belonged to the same club. So I had to go out there and use the fantabulous Google machine to check out what an old copy of this rag looked like. It was billed as America's family newspaper, and it had such articles as Pool Shark 17 puts her foes behind the 8-ball, the minister whose chalk talks to church flock, and the confirmed kleptomaniac who collects newspaper clippings. Oh, clever. Oh, yeah. There was also another very similar get-rich-quick scheme for kids that showed no bias. This one had no gender or age discrimination at all. It was to sell Christmas cards for the Junior Sales Club of America. And when you signed up, you would get a catalog in the mail, and it would show you all the available designs of Christmas cards. And then you would go door to door, pounding on all your neighbors' doors, trying to sell boxes of these cards. And I tried this once. I did. I got the catalog in the mail, and I'm all ready. I'm going to go out and make some bucks. And I was amazed by the prizes you could win. Oh, boy, you could sell 20 boxes and win a jigsaw. Not a jigsaw puzzle, an actual jigsaw, woodworking stuff. And if you sold 12 boxes, you could get, wait for it, a Red Ryder BB gun. Not kidding. And another 12 boxes, if you sold those 12 boxes, you could win a radar rocket cannon. I have no idea what that is, but boy, it sounded great, and I was intrigued. So I signed up, I got the catalog, and I started going door to door around the neighborhood. Only one problem. All of my buddies had already done the same thing. They had drained the potential market of Christmas card buyers. Oh, the swine. But the most popular way to make money as a kid, and I know you've done this yourself, it's been done since time immemorial, up to this generation, they're still doing it today, is to create a lemonade stand, right? I know you've done that. Every kid has. It comes usually about the middle of summer when you're bored out of your mind on a Wednesday afternoon. You go up to your mother going, I want to do something. You whine about it, and she goes, go make a lemonade stand. Hey, great idea. So you do, right? We've all done it. And I remember my very first lemonade stand. I was very young, and I made it out of an old wooden crate, and I carefully drew a sign with a crayon that hung proudly on the front of the box, and it said, lemonade, 5 cents. And then I set about squeezing a whole bunch of lemons to make a few pitchers of that tart drink. And I got to tell you, that first day I did really, really well. Folks were coming up from all over the place. They'd pull over in their car and buy a cup. Some folks would walk up and hand me a buck, and I didn't have change. And they would just say, go keep the change. Oh, man, that was the best. There you go. Now you're making money. But the best part is when people would walk up, give you a buck, and not buy anything. That's pure profit, friends. This is a great lesson in business, isn't it? Pure profit. And it went that way for a day or two. The lemonade stand was doing really, really well. So what happens next is my friend Crash, who lives across the street from me, sees that I'm making some money from this lemonade stand, and he's not going to stand for it anymore. So the following morning, as I'm setting up shop, he brings out a card table. Right? All of the guys, this little rickety box. Now he brings out this big card table, and he has several pitchers of drinks on it. And not only is he selling lemonade, but he's also selling Funny Face. Do you remember Funny Face? That was a drink in the 60s. It was the alternative to Kool-Aid. And it had some great names like Freckle Face Strawberry, and Rootin' Tootin' Raspberry, and Goofy Grape. Oh, the swine. And he was selling all that for a nickel a cup. He's trying to undersell me. Oh, boy, the war was on. So the next morning, I get up, and now I get rid of my wooden crate. I bring out my dad's fancy card table. I drape it in my mom's best, beautiful Christmas tablecloth, which I know I shouldn't have done, but I did it anyway. This was business, friends. I put that on the table, and I put my pitcher of lemonade up there, and I bring out something, a toy that I had never played with. I got it for a birthday or something years before. And this was the perfect time to bring it out. It was the Frosty Snowman Snow Cone Maker. Oh, yes. Now I'm going to get Crash this time. Boy, I'm going to get him. It came with 5 packages of flavored syrup, and you would put the ice cubes in the top, put the hat on and push down on it, crank this little crank on the back, and it would make shaved ice. And then you put these flavored toppings on them. And I was going to sell each snow cone for a dime. So take that, Crash. You take that, buddy. Well, what happens is the next morning I get up, bring out the card table, set it up, and here comes Crash. And this morning he adds to his product line oatmeal raisin cookies. Really? They were home-baked. His mom apparently made them for the entire family, but all he did was simply pick up the entire platter. He nicked the platter and put it in his booth, selling the cookies for 10 cents each. Oh, boy, the battle waged on. The following morning, I added my precious comic book collection to the mix. I added it to my product line. They were all in pretty good shape, so I sold them for a dime each, and boy, a ton of kids came, and they were buying those comic books left and right. Well, the next day, after Crash and I both set up shop, I noticed that there was a line starting to form at his stand, but they were all older men. They were just older guys. And the line started off with maybe 5 or 6 guys, but then pretty soon it grew until the queue in the line was like 15 to 20 guys. This was amazing. Man, what did Crash do? What did he add to his product line that drew so many guys? I had to go find out. So I walked across the street to find out. And now, don't take this wrong. This is all very innocent, okay? But back in the day, back when we were kids, a lot of dads used to like reading, and I say that in quotes, magazines like True Detective and Real Men. And they had these paintings on the cover with buxom women with their clothes half torn off, and informative articles like Heart Attack, 10 Signals That Can Save Your Life. And even more informative articles like the sugar-coated nudes who outfox the Navy, and nurses who use passion to cure their patients. They weren't pornographic, but they had these titillating stories in them. And Crash had stumbled on his dad's collection, and he brought them out to the stand to sell. Oh, no. Oh, boy. Crash's mom came out to see what all the commotion was about, and you could hear her shriek up and down the block, probably blocks away. It just echoed through town. And the last thing we saw of Crash that day was his mom grabbing him by the ear and dragging him into the house. And the next thing we saw was his old man coming home early from work. His tires screeched into the driveway. Like I say, that's the last time we saw Crash for 2 weeks. He was grounded, but good. But friends, that's business. That's how it is. One day you're up, one day you're down. C'est la vie.